Sorry about that, Kevin. Can you hear me now? Can you hear it now? I have a new phone and I don't know exactly. Can anybody hear now? Okay, good. Thank you. So I have a new phone and this is causing me some problems. As much as I love getting something new, I absolutely hate starting from scratch. I can't understand the questions and I can't read the book. And my son keeps saying to me, here, read this book. I should really do that. So it's not working with my microphone like the other one did. And so I apologize for that. So it is the season of exacerbations. And we have to learn with COPD how to prepare for this season. It's one of the hardest seasons for us to get through is fall. One of the things that starts this exacerbation season is sometimes allergies. If you're allergic to stuff and certain things are blooming and all of the pollen is blowing in the air and everything, and everybody's trying to get their grass cut, for the last time of the year and everything. So some of the allergies are causing some issues with a lot of people. Thank God I do not have allergies. I am so thankful. I cannot imagine how people do it when they have allergies and have to get through the spring and the fall. There's a lot of wildfires out there. Out west in Canada, we have an awful lot of wildfires. And they do this as a controlled measure to try and get the forest revitalized and so forth. And we understand that. But the fumes and the smell are absolutely horrible. So I don't know if keeping your air conditioning on. I know that a couple of days it wasn't excessively hot, but the humidity was high. And so I had the air conditioning running regardless. And it really seemed to help. So I don't know if that helps or not. Some people have said that the bad air comes in. The bad air comes in through the air conditioning, and I'm sorry if that happens to you, because there's not much else that you can do in these situations, right? It's cold and flu season, and I've had the cold and flu a couple of weeks ago. You might remember a couple of weeks ago, and I had it for about 3 weeks. Not everybody, it didn't last that long for everybody, but it did for some people. And so these are all the things that are making our exacerbations start in full mode. So we're spending more time indoors and around people. And once we're around people, we're around odors and perfume. And I know no matter how many times you say to somebody, please don't come near me if you're wearing perfume, they always say, oh, they've only got a little bit of it on, right? Well, a little bit of it is all that it can take to take my breath away. So I don't know, does anybody else have this problem? Hi, Christine. Does anybody else have this problem with odors like perfumes? And cleaning supplies is one of the things that I have a really, really hard time with. And so I don't do a lot of cleaning around the house. Yay, I hate cleaning. No, I love cleaning. I absolutely love cleaning. I don't do a lot of it anymore, but I used to love cleaning, but I can't tolerate the smell of any. So anytime that I am cleaning, I'm using natural products, and I usually find these things on Pinterest, right? So that's pretty cool. One of the things that I can tolerate is lavender, and lavender is really good because it takes the stress levels down, right? So something you might want to think about maybe before you go to bed at, car air fresheners, horrible, absolutely horrible things. As soon as I see those in the car, I take them off right away and I throw them out. My daughter borrowed my car for a little while, and before she sent it back to me, she had it cleaned and I don't know what they call it, detailed. She had it cleaned and detailed for me. And of course, once that's done, they put all this stuff in the car, and the car just smelled like it was like a pine forest, right? It took my breath away. Yeah, I do too, Sandra. I've always been kind of sensitive to it. Even when I was teaching, when I was an instructor, I used to have these men that would come into the room, and men. I don't know why they do this, but they feel like they have to wear so much aftershave, and it does smell very nice. I can imagine that he just got out of a shower. But honestly, it would take my breath away, and I finally had to say, no more scents in my classroom. Absolutely nobody can come in here with any scent. And that included shampoo and deodorants as well, right? Now, cigarette smoke is something that I really do not enjoy anymore. And, I spent so many years enjoying it. Most of us have, enjoying that cigarette smoke. And when I first stopped smoking, just before I was diagnosed with COPD, I would say to somebody, just light a cigarette and let me smell it. But now it just catches in the back of my throat, and cigarette smoke is horrible. And where I go to the hospital, they have these big signs on the cement with a smoker, with a cigarette and an X through it, right? And that's exactly where everybody will go and stand and smoke their cigarettes. And I was going for blood the other day, and I came out of the place, and the place next door to it is a tobacco store. Can you imagine a health store or a blood place? And I came out, and I had my oxygen. And I said to the guy, "Do you think you could just walk down about 10 feet away from me because I have this oxygen in?" And he got quite annoyed until he turned around and saw the oxygen in my nose, right? So. People aren't always obliging, and they're not always accommodating for us, right? I have no problem with asking people to move or to kind of go and wash the perfume off of them if they want to talk to me. Otherwise, I ask them to sit at the other side of the room, or I'll go to the other side of the room. But we are spending more time indoors and around more people. And this, of course, will exacerbate the flu and cold season as well. And I don't know what this frog is that I have in my throat. It's just developed this minute as I started talking. But around more people, and people will say to me, "Oh, I was sick last week," or "I was sick yesterday, but I'm fine today." And they want to come and give me a big hug, and I think, oh my God, you just got to stop this, right? So at some point, I just say to them, I'll just greet you from a distance if you don't mind. So while we're talking about exacerbations, and this season's going to last a little while, so just as if you were going on a vacation, you have to be suitcase ready in case you have an exacerbation. Because one of the things that you'll want when you're in the hospital is phones, tablets, and chargers. If you don't know where your chargers are and you don't have some on the go or some ready to go, right, it makes it pretty difficult if you get in the hospital. My phone is always in my hand because I had sudden cardiac arrest. I'm even afraid to go to the bathroom without my phone if I need to call 911, right? So my phone's always in my hand. And my phone has a dual purpose. One of it is communicating with those people who can't get to the hospital and need to know the information about what's going on with me. And the other thing is that on my phone is all of my medication lists and everything that I need to tell the doctors when I get there. And my husband knows where it is, so that if yes, Christine, that's a great idea. Christine says yesterday her housekeeper called and said that she had had a cold for a week. Did I still want her to come? And I appreciated the call and said no thanks, that I could that it could kill me. And you're right, Christine. We never know, and usually when I hear people say all the time, I never fully recovered from that exacerbation. So we have to be ever ready, and we have to be willing to tell people, no, I would rather that we made another date. I'm sure that if you have a housekeeper every week or every month or whatever, that your house can go one week or 2 weeks or 1 month without being clean. And that was very That was very considerate of her. I have students who are very much the same, who will call me and say, I really have a cold this week. I don't know if I should come or not. And I'll say, no, just, wait till next week, because it's not worth it when you're in close contact. And for a housekeeper who's touching everything pretty much in your house, right, it's a really good idea to be ready. But you know what? We have to be brave enough to say no. Hi, Gwen. How are you? Nice to see you today. I'm always glad when you can come on. Gwen was an old roommate of mine when we were in rehab, along with Heather Kelly and a few other gals up there. We had a great time at rehab, and we were one of the last ones who had inpatient care, so it was wonderful. How are you keeping these days, Gwen? You have to be brave enough to say no. So learn to say no, and learn to let people digest it and accept it as they will. They can take it whichever way they want to, right? But it's not, you don't have to feel bad about this, right? It's not them that has to recover. Yeah, I hear you, Sandra, and that's actually what happens to us, right? A lot of times we have one exacerbation too many, and we never quite recover from it. I've been absolutely lucky, touch wood, that every time I've had an exacerbation that, although it takes me a while to start over again, and I'm always continually starting over again, but I am able to start over again, and I'm very, very lucky for that. I have a lot of encouragement and support from my family. My family has been absolutely fabulous. My kids are adorable. My husband is unbelievable. He does so much stuff for me. And the rest of my family are absolutely fabulous. So I'm very, very lucky there, because a lot of people don't have that, right? And if you don't have that support with your family, it makes it really, really tough. So when you're getting suitcase ready, make sure that your medication list is brought up to date. And so that's something that you might want to keep in your journal or on your phone. Make sure that any medications that have been discontinued or started is noted in your new medication list, right? And it's so that list should be done every time medication is changed, but you should absolutely go over it at least 4 times a year. You should have some reading material, and this should be in your suitcase so that it's ready to go. You may get into the hospital and not feel like reading. You may not be able to get your phone hooked up, and some reading material is nice. Something else that I found was really cool when I was in the hospital was some crossword puzzles or word searches, right? Kind of mindless things that kind of keep your mind going. Because sometimes it's hard to concentrate on a book, right? Yeah, Sandra, I feel so sorry for you. I know you have no support, and it must be extremely hard for you. And I know you went home and you still had no support. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure where you would find it, but I think that if you can find a support group, I think that's where you might find the best support for you. It's really, really hard for us, and I can't imagine living without having support, without people who understand around you, who are accepting of your illness. And I wrote an article about this last week about, going to lunch with some old friends. And hi, Laurie. It's nice. It doesn't matter if you're late. You'd always catch the replay. So I wrote an article about this last week about how unsupportive some friends can be, right? And sometimes they don't even realize what they're doing and the things that they're saying to you or how they make you feel. But it can be absolutely horrible to have this kind of a disease and to be alone. Does anybody wear has anybody thought of wearing a mask in public? That's a good idea, Christine. Christine says she has all this stuff on her fridge, and it's all ready to go. Her list is in a large medicine bottle, and the emergency people know where to find it. So I have, because I've had sudden cardiac arrest, my kids insist that I have one of these things. So this is the help I've fallen and I can't get up button. And so if something happens to me, I can always push that button. And if I don't respond to them, they'll send EMS, which is a fabulous idea, right? It's pretty costly. At least I think it is, because I'm not making any money, right? I don't make any money on anything too much. And so I think it's a little expensive when you don't have a job, but it's $65 Canadian. I don't know how much it is in the States. But the beauty of it is that we have a code on our door for the lock, so they know the code to get in the house. They know that what to do with the dog. They've been given instructions on what to do with the dog if they come in the house, and that I absolutely do not want the police to shoot her. They know where my stuff is, and they know how to get to me. So it's kind of, we're assuming that if something happens to me, that I will not be able to communicate with them, right? And so if that's the case, then they need to know where to find this stuff, and it's a really good idea. It gives you a little bit of peace of mind anyways. Lori says, I wear my mask at flu season to the grocery store when I shop or when I go to the doctor's. Good idea. The best place to wear your mask is when you're going to the doctor's or to the hospital. Remember that most of the flu virus and the flu bugs and everything you're going to find in the hospital. And that's why your doctor will often say to you, don't go to the hospital, because that's the worst place for you to be, right? So you use a lot of hand sanitizer, right? So who uses hand sanitizer? I'm kind of still out in the middle on this. I'm not sure about the hand sanitizer. I used to use it, but it makes my hands so dry, and they get cracked, and when they get dry and cracked and there's an open sore on them, then I figured that you could get more germs. Yeah, I know your doctor tells you to do that, and I know that they use a handful of it every time they come in or they leave your room, right? I hear you. But for me, it's not. I don't like it. It does not agree with my skin. In fact, any time that I'm out, when I'm in a washroom and using soap in a public restroom, I cannot use it unless I have hand cream on. But yeah, Christine, it's a great idea when you can't wash your hands, right? Oh, Lori says that you could get towelettes. That would be a good idea, probably. Maybe the towelettes would have a bit of moisturizing in them. Something like baby towelettes, right? Maybe they're not so drying on your hands. So wearing a mask in public is not a bad thing, right? And I heard somebody on this morning that was saying that she had to start wearing a mask because they have wildfires, right? And so she was going to take the black mask and put a smiley face on it, which I thought was pretty cute, because sometimes people look at you and they can't help but not look away, right? And so it's scary for them. And I think even for small kids, I think even when they see my oxygen in, I was going through the store last week and some little girl was staring at me, and I didn't quite know what to say to her, and I wanted to use it as an education moment, but oh my God, the kid was like 3 years old. So I think if you're wearing a mask and you have a smiley face on it, I think it's kind of funny, and people will laugh along with you, right? But otherwise it looks like it's just so serious, you know. So clearing the clutter of our lives, and when we're doing that, and I was talking to Carol earlier this week, yes, the worst thing is the cashier. You know, they should really be wearing gloves, right, when they're touching your food, because you have to take that food home and put it away. And how many times do you touch that food before it's disposed of, right? So yeah, I think when people are using your boxes and stuff, and they should be kind of, you know, a little bit more diligent about this cold and flu. I know it's not serious for everybody. I know it's not life and death for a lot of people, but for us it could be, right? So hearing somebody sneeze in the grocery store is not a good idea. Stay away from that person. I don't go for groceries. I am very lucky because my husband will go for groceries for me, right? And he does all my groceries for me. Yes, that's a good idea, Lori. I think that every time somebody stares at you, or every time somebody is looking at you with you know, with that look of confusion on their face and they're not understanding, remember that a lot of these small kids, they've never seen anybody with oxygen in, right? My little grandson, who is 1.5 years old, has never seen me without oxygen on. So he's quite used to it, right? And he never pulls on it or anything. He's really a good little boy. But he went to the doctor's the other day, and there was a lady in there with oxygen on. And he pointed at her and said, "Granny, Granny, Granny." So you know that he's saying to his mother, look, this lady has the same thing as what Granny has. She wears that thing on her nose too, right? So he's used to it. He doesn't get scared of it or anything, right? It's no big deal for him. But a lot of the little kids, you know, they haven't been exposed to it. It's really pretty freaky for him. So, you know, and the way that kids look at things, if we don't explain these things to them, they're going to be up all night with night terrors, right? So I think that every moment that somebody is confused or looks at you and doesn't understand, I think it should be used as an educational moment. There's no point in getting mad about it. It is what it is, and there's no reason why you can't explain what's going on. So Cheryl says she doesn't wear a mask, but she uses essential oil called Immunity. I put a dab under my nose. Sometimes it's worked for so far it's worked for 5 years. Towelettes also come with aloe. Oh, so towelettes with aloe would be good for me, because I'd like that, the aloe. So who uses essential oils? Now, I've heard a couple of trains of thought on essential oils. My doTERRA seller, the girl who sells doTERRA, says it's absolutely essential for lung. I don't know. I do have a diffuser and I do use it sometimes, but I use it very sparingly. So it's sitting over there on the other desk, and I kind of use it a little bit. Sometimes I use it. Sometimes in the winter there is one that is for a lung treatment that I use, but I don't use it very much. And I have eons and eons of the stuff. It's stinking up my buffet in the dining room, and I really should remove it and put it someplace else, or in a plastic bag or something, because it really does smell. But so does anybody else use essential oils? Now, you have to know how to use essential oils, right? You have to know how to use the right things, because if you don't use the right things, then it's no good for you. So while we're on the topic of exacerbation times, let's talk about cannulas. So these are your cannulas, they go in your nose. There's also a mask that can go on your face, and I'm lucky that I don't have to wear the mask. Although I am a mouth breather, I still can get enough oxygen in with the cannulas, right? Yeah, I don't use too much of them, Sandra, the essential oil, Sandra, but I use them sometimes. Sometimes I just get in the mood that I like a new scent in my room. And my office was painted a couple of weeks ago, as you may have noticed. But I can still smell the paint in here, so I still have to have the window open every day, and it's still kind of a lingering scent. And that, you know, you've got to be careful of that, so I always have the window open when I'm in here. So changing your cannulas. How often do you change your cannulas? Now, I read one of the blog posts, on one of the blog posts, and Somebody said that their oxygen supplier would not supply them with more than one a month. That is ridiculous. My cannulas are changed every week, at least once a week. There's no point in trying to clean them. There's no point in trying to save them. They're one use and they throw away. These cannulas do not go in the recycle bin. They go in the garbage. They're very, very inexpensive, and they should be supplied to you by your oxygen supplier. My oxygen supplier will give me anything that I ask for, and every time I order my oxygen canisters, they ask me if there's anything else that I need. There are little cushions that will go behind your ear. These go on the cannulas behind your ear. Do you ever get that burning feeling? I don't have it all the time, but sometimes I do. I get this burning feeling, and this is what helps it. I know somebody came in and said, "Oh, are you rolling joints now?" And I said, "No, it's not a joint. It's a it's got a split in it, so it goes right over the tubing, right?" Also, you ask your supplier for hi Marion, hi Pat. Ask your supplier for a swivel connector. So the cannulas are attached to your 50-foot hose, or I don't know how many feet you've got. I've got a 50-foot hose, and it's connected with a swivel connector. So the swivel connector moves, and this helps to alleviate some of the kinks that you get in your lines, right? Keep your cannulas clean, and every time you have a cold, if you have a cold, you should be changing your cannulas every day. I sleep with the BiPAP at night, and my BiPAP is cleaned right down to the bones every Sunday. I clean the mask once a day. I clean the straps or wash the straps once a week. I wash the hoses once a week, and I wash the dispenser that the water goes in. This is especially important when you have a cold, to make sure that you're not putting stuff in your nose that has those germs in it, right? So let's get rid of in order to get rid of the cold, we have to have a new one every day. And just as an afterthought, when I take my cannulas out of the plastic, I never, ever, ever put them on right away. I always take them out and leave them out for a few hours. Oh, I like that idea, Linda. Linda says she likes these little pads, and she puts them on her face instead of her ears because you don't get face imprints with them. And I know I very often get face imprints, right? I change them once a week. So the green hoses that are connected to the concentrator, that's what, I don't have green ones, I have clear ones. And this is the hose that comes, so this is the cannula hose, this is my swivel connector, and this is attached to my concentrator. And once a week I change them. For one thing, the longer that you have them in, the more likelihood that they are of getting tangled. They get dirty looking. And so I change mine about every Sunday. Every Sunday is clean the BiPAP, clean everything day. So if you have a problem with your oxygen supplier not giving you enough of supplies, you need to have your doctor call them, or you need to look at changing new suppliers. These cannulas must be kept clean. We must never have dirty cannulas. And anybody who tells you that, you can keep them for more than a week, tell them to put them up their nose for more than a week and keep them there. I love to hear your comments. I love to hear what you have to say. I love that people join this conversation, and I really, really appreciate it. My name is Barbara Moore, and this site is called Catch Your Breath 60. When I was trying to come up with a name for my site, my daughter and I sat down to brainstorm about a great name. And one of the things that we came up with, hi Barbara, thank you for joining us today. One of the things that we came up with was, I was always saying, let me stop and catch my breath. That's how Catch Your Breath started. And because it was very close to another name called Catching Breaths, I decided that since I was, this whole journey started when I was 60 years old, that we would call it Catch Your Breath 60. And that's how the name became. I am on Pinterest, I am on Instagram, I am on YouTube, and if anybody would like to see a replay of these videos, please go to my site, and across the top you'll see videos, and this video will be up tomorrow afternoon. Thank you so much for joining me today. I absolutely look forward to this every single week, and I hope you do too. And I will work diligently to be answering all of your comments in the next couple of days. This is Barbara Moore signing off for Catch Your Breath 60.